right. Welcome to the Adventure of Inventing podcast, where we dig into inventions and the adventure that went into creating them. Today, for our inaugural episode, I have with me my esteemed co-founder and colleague, Rudolph Mutter, the fourth, who is going to be kicking us off and just sort of talking with me about how we started our company and what we do as a way of laying the groundwork for how this podcast is going to work. Welcome, Rudy.
Thanks, Tony. Happy to be here and be the guinea pig for our podcast series.
Right on. Hope I'm not being a little too formal with my podcaster announcing. Okay. So, Rudy and I have been friends for a really long time. We went to college together. We did a bunch of projects in college together. We started this company together and have been doing that for about 14 years now. Rudy is our co-founder, obviously, and CTO slash COO at Yeti. And how was that introduction, Rudy? Anything else you want to add?
That's a good high level.
Okay, right on. Well, we'll dig into it a little bit more. So what is our company?
Yeti is an IoT software development company. We're a boutique agency. We work with a handful of clients at a time, bringing them all the way through some ideation, strategy, product design, product development, launching, and with lots of our clients, years of ongoing support and adding new features.
Right on. What's some of the longest client engagements that you've had, slash we've had?
Yeah, well, we've had a couple clients that are up there, some ongoing. I think one of our longest ones was 7-8 years, which ran a large majority of actually our time running the company together.
For sure. Cool. Well, so let's talk about let's go way back, 14 years you're talking about, maybe a little bit before that. What was the idea for the company and how did that come about?
Yeah, well, both you and I both had some experience working for other agencies, similar to Yeti, but doing, maybe different kinds of work in other different industries with a different focus. And we both had that experience. We were graduating from school. We were in a bunch of business classes together, and it was like, let's give this a shot and try out creating our own agency and just seeing how it goes.
There's a little bit of a technical innovation that we kind of piggybacked on too, though, right?
True, a little bit. We got mobile apps in the picture. You were doing some iOS stuff in particular. I was doing Android for another sort of startup company that I was working for. And you definitely had the idea of like, well, let's have an agency and let's focus on creating some software and creating a whole like web mobile sort of thing. We pitched some ideas around some software around it that maybe we could pull together, but largely it was like, let's try to create an app on all platforms for clients.
Cool. Well, that kind of brings me to the next question. Like, how did it get off the ground? Like we had this idea and we were in school and it's, cool, we can do this stuff. Like, how did it go?
Well, at first, all we needed were our laptops that we had already for school that we were doing projects on. But in particular, you had some leads really and from some potential clients from your own network at some of your various jobs and internships that you had worked at. And so you lined up pretty much like 2 clients, one big one and another small one or so. And it was like, let's just you and I give this a go and try to build this thing. And I mean, and that sort of set us off on the path.
Yeah, and we can talk about what who our first customers were.
True.
So I guess I'll chime in since I was selling them at the time. It's hard for us to say who our first customer was because we signed them pretty much like the same time. We signed MIT Department of Economics. We built a website for them because that's where I had worked. And then we we had a pretty large project that was a Groupon clone, which was all the rage when in 2010. And we flew down to Florida the week that we graduated college. I don't know if you remember that. Um, but those were our first two customers, knocked those out and got rolling. Anything else to add?
Uh, just that, they had a spin, and there was another Groupon had another competitor that was also like, the more people that buy, the better deal or discount you get. I forget what the other one was too, but
Living Social, was that the
Living,
name?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what comes to mind. Yeah.
I think it was Living Social, yeah. So it was kind of like another spin on that. But yeah, it was a iOS app, Android app, web app, all with a shared backend.
Yeah. Which is sort of like what really the like main service that we were providing back then was like we could kind of do this whole ecosystem together. So how did we finance building our company?
Yeah, well, since we're a service-based company, it was all bootstrapped, right? We didn't really need investments. We had our laptops and had the first clients that you've sourced, and we were just working on it. We've never had to raise any money to date because
Fairly low capital costs when you
yeah.
already have a laptop. I mean, we paid for an office that was a old restaurant. Our meeting room was a meat locker, literally. Um, right on. So, Rudy, were there any mentors or people that inspired you slash us while we were getting our company going?
Yeah, we definitely. I think we both have maybe had some shared inspiration, maybe some separate ones. For sure, we looked at some other agencies, 37 Signals, because of their books, and we're like, here's the Holy Grail agency, make their own products. I know when we started to dig into it, I read a bunch of Joel Spolsky's, I think, stuff at the very beginning, Joel on software. He's kind of very like talk straight, very opinionated on software development stuff. I feel like we leaned in heavily to that, or I did on that. Pivotal Labs was another agency I feel like we looked at a lot. We talked about their agile practices, how they ran their agency. They created their own project management tool, ticket tracking tool. And then there's a bunch of business books. I feel like we both read a whole bunch.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we were reading a
Right.
bit like a business book a month together. Like, we had a little mini book club that we were doing because we
Sure.
didn't know anything.
So
Um, yeah, right on. Cool. Well, so when did you realize that the company would be a success?
I took a look at these questions ahead of time, and this one I think I chuckled at audibly out loud because
Yeah.
it's
Have we figured that out yet?
yeah, it's like I feel like a perpetual thing is probably for entrepreneurs and business owners, like when do you ever actually think you're a success? I feel like people coming on the podcast answering this might generally struggle, but I'm sure I'm like trying to come up with a moment. I mean, I remember we started the company, had those first two clients. We drove across country from Boston to San Francisco. We were, you know, tracking, making payroll. We hired some people on, and we sort of made this initial risky gamble, like let's bring some people on, let's push on sales and essentially spend more money to try to make money, also create a website. And that actually worked out. And I think that was like a huge thing we passed. Obviously, I mean, we've had ups and downs and challenges the whole time of running the company together, but that was our first major hurdle. I feel like we jumped across. I do feel like I had some sense of more stability or success, honestly, during or after COVID. I think the us going remote, focusing on a quality team, we had some stable, clients. We switched up billing models a little bit. I feel like a lot of things fit more into place during that period of time.
Yeah. Well, there are also other moments of success being on Netflix, like, getting award. I think I still have our Inc. 5000 award on my shelf here. But yeah, I mean, and I think this question will be funny because it's an evolution. It's always an evolution, right?
Yeah.
Um, getting our first like big office and stuff like that. Um, anyway, so I mean, you've sort of identified this, but what were some of the biggest challenges you slash we faced either going to market or building our company?
For sure. The one I kind of hinted at the beginning was, you had some of our initial clients from your network in Boston, and then we're in San Francisco. And since you grew up in the area, you had friends, family, some network here. But in general, it's like, how do we now go and sell and find more projects when we need it? And um, for sure, we were like, let's just hit up every startup meetup we can in the city. And had like a beer and pizza several nights a week at meetups, just try to talk to people, that were mostly startup founders that were looking for a technical co-founder that didn't have any money to pay anyone to do anything. But it was really a game of like building up our portfolio, building up the network and word of mouth and more referrals and having more case studies to point to. I mean, that was kind of the
Yeah.
just, yeah.
This might plug into my next question. What was one of the biggest mistakes we made? But I mean, one of the biggest challenges that I remember is when we didn't we made money our first year, which is unique for a company. But we had no idea about the tax implications, and we literally had to take on extra projects like to just pay our tax bill. And you and I were up until 3, 4 in the morning just crushing code because for literally to pay our taxes. So
Yeah. Yeah. Who knew?
yeah,
Uh, yeah, there's a lot of business things we maybe weren't aware of and learned over many years. I think when like hearing this question, I mean, you mentioned it as a success, but I feel like for anyone listening, like we ended up being on a mockumentary, like this documentary that Chelsea Handler, a comedian, did on Netflix. And one of the episodes was Chelsea does Silicon Valley, and we actually build her an app in the episode. And we were really excited and pumped about the publicity and hopefully potential like lead generation that would happen from this. We hired on some more senior team members and like we're like ready to like just a real growth in the company. And I think we didn't expect the types of leads that were going to come in or how to qualify or how to handle. And maybe we shouldn't have prepped or grown so much on overhead or just people before we saw some success from it. I don't know, it's difficult. Obviously, we can look back with hindsight at this point, right? Like I feel like some of what we did was good, taking it on, trying to prep for growth, etc. But
yeah. Well, and I think like with the air that I want to try to foster on this podcast is definitely like transparency and like we got what you're alluding to is we got way over our skis in 2016 to the point that it was almost existential for our company. Um, and I think like one of the things from a takeaway perspective on that is I mean I think we learned like it was an incredibly valuable, if not very expensive, learning opportunity for us where we brought on a bunch of senior people. Well, we really didn't know how to manage them, you know, and we didn't know how to make those sorts of hires, and we didn't know how to manage them. And I think since then, both you and I have gone through extensive management training and gotten the support that we need in those areas.
sure.
And I think that's one of the probably biggest mistakes slash learnings that we've had, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Was there any other mistakes that you thought of? You
uh, Yeah, I mean, not taking into account taxes at first, that was like probably one of the biggest ones. And I think maybe like more, we're in the service industry, and I think like early on, one of our things was like, okay, we're going to do the job, and that's going to be it. And I think, what we've learned being in this business 14 years is that it really is like, all based on the relationships, and like it's much more valuable to build something and like work with that client for a really long time, and have a shared roadmap that you're working on together, rather than just, hey, we're going to do this project and be done.
Mhm.
uh and I think that comes with maturity, right? But I
Yeah.
definitely say that that's one of the biggest mistakes, right?
Yeah, I'd add the other one too that I thought of was we were getting so many leads from our SEO positioning, but we were not aware of it. I guess it's hard to say this was a mistake though, because I mean we lost the San Francisco app developer top 10, top 3 placement of our SEO because of other websites and whatnot. But for sure, looking back, we just weren't really tracking or clear where those leads were coming from. And so there was like a period of rough time where we leaned just more into the referral, networking, word of mouth stuff before that sort of caught up. And because we just had no foresight until we were losing, that SEO
Yeah.
treasure
Yep.
trove that we had.
Yeah, yeah. Not realizing the gifts the gifts that we were given on that, for sure.
Yeah.
um Cool. Well, so let's shift more to like present tense. Like, what are some of the biggest challenges that we have now?
Be interesting to see if we're thinking some of the same stuff. I think there was some really great upside to going fully remote during COVID, hiring great talent all across the country, some quality of life stuff for everyone on the team, um, not having an office, so some reduction in expenses, etc. But I feel like our word of mouth networking referral stuff a lot happened from some parties that you threw, for example, at our office space, people that would use our office space for things, meeting up just more casually in the city. And some of that can happen on Zoom now, but I think not nearly are we organically, building sort of our network and just getting that referral when us and I mean many other people have also left the city and the area. So I just feel the networking, referral, word of mouth stuff just requires so much more effort now than maybe how it felt previously.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, our business relies a lot on referrals. So I would definitely like, we don't have our party space and all that stuff anymore. So it's evolving that. Macroeconomically, like, there's been a lot less invested in like technical products right now. So we're obviously working through that. I think one of the other challenges is like there's this, Section 174 thing, which um we've created a video around, but there's like some tax implications for R&D expenditure, which is where our business does a lot of work. So that affects, our clients and like their ability to spend money with us. I would also say like one of the things that we're working on with our clients, and, it's challenges, is, honestly developing deeper partnerships. So we're working through, some joint ventures and things like that. And so those are newer deal structures for us, which, um, we're excited for, but something that's a little bit of uncharted territory. So there's always challenges.
Hmm.
Um, all right. So what is one of the biggest things that you thank yourself for now, Rudy?
Like that past Rudy did
Yeah.
at some point during the company.
Yeah, that you did during the company.
Yeah. Um, Interesting question. I do think the first thing that comes to my mind is putting a bit more structure around team management, career development, hiring, etc. Like a couple things. I mean, like I went from, and you took a similar trajectory, but then we sort of split in some of our company responsibilities, but like developer, manager, and then trying to be business owner, working on the company, right? And so I think hiring and trying out various people on the team and finding someone who enjoys and can lean into being a manager on the team and one-to-ones and like getting some process in place around that and getting some other people on the team to have some direct reports, I think really unlocks more free time for present Rudy. And then I think there'll be a blog article coming out sometime soon on this, but the career development strategy, creating some roles and salary bands and matrices that outline expectations for people on the team that make it clear and very transparent around raises and whatnot. And when we hire someone, where do they fit in there? And just being able to then also hand that process off to the managers as well to more run that and just be more systematized about it and not have to stress and worry.
And one of the things you like, well, a lot of the things that you mentioned, working on the business, not in the business, working, finding the right people. I think, probably one of the things I think myself for, and I wish we'd done sooner, is like join, the like support, like, entrepreneur support groups like EO and things to get that perspective, even to, be able to, be able to know what we need to do, what we don't know, stuff like that. So Rudy and I are both in an organization called EO, that kind of has like like support groups of small business owners. And so we joined. We were like some of the younger people in it, and got a lot of insight from other business owners on that.
Yeah, I think we still are some of the youngest people, which is
I'm not anymore in the chapter up here, which is unfortunate. Or fortunate, depending on how you look at it, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah.
And then I think one of the things, the question is like, what's some of the biggest things you thank yourself for? I think, one of the things that I think we realized was we read a whole bunch of stuff from like, schemes, flat structure, 37 signals, like, no managers type of thing. And I think we sort of aspirationally, didn't have any sort of like managerial structure in our business for too long. I know that I went to a business coach at some point. He was like, "So you're the leader of a pirate ship," and that has stuck with me for a long time, because it's definitely not what you want, when you're running a company. So, what are some of the biggest wins or milestones that you're particularly proud of? I think we kind of talked about some of these.
I mean, what comes to mind is definitely some of the cool projects we worked on, things we launched.
But
Uh,
let's talk about that. We haven't really touched on, some of the, cooler things that we've actually produced.
yeah, I mean, one that's just it's cool that it's still like we don't work on it anymore, but it's still just standing today is the interactive kiosks we built for Westfields. We worked on a handful of projects. Westfield Mall, they're a chain of malls all over the country, some international. They had a labs department, so we helped them on a bunch of projects, but one that was a multi-year project with them was launching and iterating in these large standing touchscreen interactive kiosks that let you go, to a mall and actually see the interactive route from you to the store you want to go to in the mall instead of looking at one of those static maps where you got to see the "you are here" thing and the number and find the number on the map. And if it's on the third floor, figure out how you get there from an escalator or something like that. And that was a really complicated project. I just know working with a lot of like the mapping, the multi-floor mapping, getting all that data in. And those are still up and running and seem largely untouched from what we built. And it's just fun when I end up.
Years ago now. Like
Yeah, yeah. Every once in a while, I'll end up at one of those malls or someone that knows us will like send like I think just a couple months ago send me a photo and they were like, "Is this the kiosk you worked in?" They were in like I think the Century City one or something like that, and It's great. I mean, it's just super cool. I mean, how many like at this point, how many people have used it? It's hard to even estimate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the things we always benchmark ourselves on is like how many people have used this software? Which is pretty cool. So I mean, there's like we've had, like donation forms for Smile Train that have helped raise like millions of dollars and stuff like that. And it's like you can track like immediately the impact of it. And that's a point of pride for a company like ours for sure.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Um, but if I thought longer and harder and I thought more about milestones of the business, I'm sure there's something there, but I don't, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, we celebrated our 10-year anniversary in the throes of COVID. That
Yeah.
was fun.
No big party we could have thrown there.
Yeah, maybe 15 years we can do it.
Yeah. I guess one thing is, been around for 14 years and there's been so many people that have, I mean, not so many, we're not a giant company, but lots of people that have come through the team, worked in the team for several years or longer that I still keep in touch with. And like the careers and trajectory of those other people also feels very rewarding because a lot of them like started their career with us at Yeti, you know?
For sure. Yeah, yeah. Um, won't name names, but yeah, no, definitely good to see that and good to stay in touch with all the folks, the Yeti alumni.
Yeah.
All right. So what advice would you give people building a company?
Interesting. I guess I'm gonna take the perspective of at least I don't know, because it's like there's some different stuff. Are you building a startup? Are you trying to raise money quickly? Are you a service-based company? Or let's just say maybe generally you're a tech-based company. But I think for sure you already hinted at one, find help and resources, find other like-minded people or people that are in a similar spots. At this point, we've tried out a few different organizations. We're in a couple right now. Being around other business owners and people that have started companies, there's just like a certain shared topics and things that you would not get that insight from talking to anyone else.
Definitely. I think we both were like, mentors. Well, we read a lot of books, but they only get you so far. Having actual like real support groups, coaches, people, peers that you can talk to is super, super important. All right, Rudy. Well, thanks. Is there anything else that you want to mention, or where can we find out more about you and Yeti?
Well, you can definitely come to our website, yeti.co. There should be a series of these podcasts coming out with Tony as your host. So hopefully you listen to the
And you're
next.
gonna jump in every once in a while too.
I'll be a guest every once in a while. So if you want to listen to us, I think definitely listen on in the series. Um, and if you're ever in the Bay Area, hit us up.
Right on. All right. Well, thank you, Rudy. And this concludes the first episode of the Adventure of Inventing podcast. Stay tuned for more.